Joining Kevin, please welcome Atlantic Senior Editor Gillian White.
Well, that was wonderful. I think we're all awake now. No danger of an after-lunch slump. So, Kevin, can you talk us through what you just did there?
So, that's a drum machine. It's a piece of electronic equipment. So, just imagine a drummer playing, but it's just me. It's not like the drummer over there you see. So, this would help make this music evolve. Back in the day, by having this type of equipment, it allowed persons like myself to be creative and make beats and learn how to make music to go with it and complete songs. So when I first started out, I was hitting like a kick drum, a snare, a clap, some cymbals, hi-hats, stuff like that, so you could hear the sounds that come within it. Now, that's a modern day machine in comparison to the machines I used 30 years ago. But it's a very important part of the evolution of this music that we know as techno.
Yeah. So I want to go back to when you first started this. So from Detroit, what was the music scene like when you first started getting into techno?
Well, I was at the beginning. So when I say the beginning, we had Juan Atkins. He's kind of the originator of the sound, techno, and came up with the phrase techno. We all went to school together, myself, Juan, Derek, and there were some other guys. When I was going to school at Eastern Michigan University, Eddie Folks, Blake Baxter, San Antonio. So it was a group of us that had or wanted to get our hands on this equipment. So it was no scene back then. We developed the scene from Juan Atkins to Derek to me to all of us by DJing first. That was the first phrase, to just play music. I was playing stuff like Prince, Madonna, Parliament Funkadelic, Kraftwerk. So there was a void in music at the time, and our goal was to make people dance. And the easiest way I thought about doing it was really giving a 4/4 beat, just like I just did there, and building onto that. So we started making this music just for us to play at these events, at parties. And it started evolving. People started dancing to it. People started listening to it. So it was a very small scene. It was mainly kids on campus, a handful, I'm talking about 100, 200 kids that just was following this music.
Yeah. So I'm imagining, so you're DJing, you're playing Prince, you're playing something like that, then you switch. Was there any resistance where did you ever run into crowds who were like, that's not what we want to hear, we're not interested in that at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, there were people on campus that just didn't get it. So those who got it, who wanted to be forward-thinking and into the future, they supported it. And as things developed, as we started developing our sound, our own labels, self-promoting this music from Detroit to Chicago, to New York, around the world, to overseas, it started to grow, and it caught on. And I used to always say when I was on campus, you see all the fraternities giving parties, but nobody's dancing. They're drinking, socializing, and that was really it. And I thought our music was for everybody, and it proves today that this music started here from Detroit, and it spread throughout the world. I'm talking about everywhere, from Australia to Tokyo to London. It's many countries just all around the world that love techno music.
Yeah. So when people think about Detroit and they think about music, I think maybe the first thing that comes to mind is Motown. And I think for a lot of people, maybe it stops there. So you said in the beginning that there was this void that existed for a particular type of music. How did you know that that void was there and that Detroit in particular would be receptive to something different?
Well, I think we felt it. It was a natural feeling, like you felt something. Something was needed. And then when we got our hands on some of this electronic equipment and started figuring out how to really master it and use it, it really just started happening. And it happened really quick because I think I released my first record in '87. By end of '88, I've had two big hits in the pop charts. Now, I'm not even thinking about pop charts or nothing like that. I'm just thinking about people dancing. But people were dancing seriously in London. The whole country was dancing to my music and the other guys, Juan Atkins and Derek May and all of us. So it was quite amazing.
So you mentioned two of your hits, and I think we want to play one of those now called Good Life. So if we could cue that up. I saw a lot of people dancing. So when I was preparing for this, as soon as I played it, I was like, oh, I know this. I've heard this a million times. So I'm wondering, this is obviously a monumental success for you. What do you think made this resonate with people? Why was it so big?
Well, when I created this record, I took instrumental music, mainly most techno music was instrumental. So I wanted to add a melody to it. I wanted to put a song to it as well. So I think it took it to another level where people were used to hearing songs in general, and we kept it very uplifting too. Everything that I released, mainly from inner city, has always been a positive vibe, a happy vibe, uplifting, and it came at the right time.
Yeah. What do you think makes the techno that you started here in Detroit, Detroit techno, different than other places, than like Berlin techno or someplace else?
Well, we started it.
Yeah.
It started here. So that definitely helps. Everyone is inspired around the world differently. So let's say Berlin, for example. They got the roots from us, but they had their own DJs, their own life as far as how they grew up. The Berlin Wall, when it came down, just all the things plays factors, I think, in how everybody's influenced differently and a different perspective on how they want to make the music. So I think it's just depending on your environment and your surroundings, how you change that.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of people know that Detroit is the birthplace of techno? Or do you think that has kind of gotten lost in the story?
Well, I think there's a lot of people that know, and there's a lot of people that don't know, because there's always new artists that are coming up and they are successful. I'll give you an example. David Guetta. Okay, he's very popular. He made a lot of music, had a lot of hits. I just read something on ABC, I think, that he was the grandfather of electronic music and kind of started this music. Well, we know that's not true, but new generations that are listening to music over the last 5 or 6 years, well, they might think that because they would have no clue about 30 years ago and the history of this music.
I'm wondering, does that bug you at all? I think there are a lot of people who, if you ask them about techno and like what kind of people listen to techno, who originated techno, they wouldn't think that it's a black dude from Detroit.
No, they would definitely not think that. Does it bother me? I don't think it bothers me, but I think it's important to, if somebody's going to write about it and talk about it, I think the story needs to be told properly. That's the main thing. So, and we're still here doing it today. We're still all traveling around the world, pushing the boundaries of music and inspiring people still, 30-some years later.
Why do you think so much iconic music comes out of this city?
I don't know. It's really magical when you think about Motown, what happened back in those days, and what we kind of recreated a similar type of thing by having our own labels and all these different artists. And then you have people like Madonna, Kid Rock, Eminem. You have a lot of different artists that come out of this city. I don't know. I don't have the answer. It's magical, and it's special that it can happen that way. And maybe it's the foundation from Motown, or even before Motown, that that just spreads, and a lot of musical talent is just here and inspired by the music.
So one of the things we've been talking a lot about during the course of this conference is, kind of what makes a city, what makes cities different, what makes them great, how do they grow? I'm wondering what you think the place of music, that particular kind of lane for culture is. How does it influence a city? How does the city influence it? Why is it important? Why is it important to be able to say that this particular type of music was born and originated in a particular place?
Well, I think for Detroit, I remember when we first started making this music, and I moved down to Detroit, stayed, I think, off of Gratiot and Riot Hill near the Eastern Market area. It really wasn't much going on at that time. It was a very quiet type of city, too, for me, because originally I was from New York, and then I moved to Detroit. So through time, as we started creating this music, it started generating a lot of interest around the world. People would come from London, come from Germany, knocking at our studio doors just to be able to get in, to talk to us, to see how we made this music. They were very intrigued. And then now we look years later, this festival is called Movement Detroit, that I think 1999 was the first one, maybe 2000. We're here still today, this big festival that started from the foundation of our music that brings people from all around. It brings an influx of money into the city as well. It's very positive, and it's influencing new, young talent in the arts. It's very important to our culture of music.
Yeah. You mentioned new young talent. What do you think kind of defines the music scene in Detroit right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's still very electronic based, but because of the tools that we have here, there's no limit to the possibilities of music. You have, like I say, you have the festival that brings different artists from locally and around the world with the opportunity to perform, and others get inspired from that. And it starts from a young age as kids come to the festival too, young kids, and later on we see them develop as well and into the music somehow, in some way.
So you've been able to travel around the country, around the world, playing music, learning. I'm wondering, is there any particular place or any particular type of music that's had, a really impactful kind of resonance in your music? Is there anything that's really inspired you that you've really carried with you? You
mean like that inspired me from the beginning to where I'm
to
now? Well, for me, it was dance music, and it was really a disco, to be honest. It was disco was the closest thing to four on the floor, and it was danceable. And everybody around the world, especially today, they want to go out to clubs, they socialize, but they also want to dance, and it shows because this music, our music, is just everywhere, and it starts from a young age up till there's no limits.
Yeah. So one of the things I think is interesting is we've talked earlier about sports and its ability to unite people. The country is perhaps more divided than it's been in quite some time. What do you think the role of music is in helping to bridge that divide? Is there one?
Well, I think it's positive vibes. It brings people together. It doesn't make a difference of your race, your color. It doesn't make a difference. It brings everybody together. And it's, I look at all the events that I've played over all the years. I don't even know if I can think of one event that there's been any violence. It's all been positive and love and that type of vibe, no matter what.
And what do you feel like your reception is when you travel the country, travel the globe, and you're playing your music? What kind of reception do you get from different audiences?
What kind of reception?
Yeah.
I mean, people are just amazed at the sound and thankful for that they can experience the experience of Detroit, of this music, and that it came from this city.
Yeah. So 30 years on, I'm wondering, how has your sound evolved, and what are you working on now?
Well, it's kind of recycled, but at the same time, with technology keeps moving forward. So our sound changes a little, but the roots is always there, and it still comes from the soul. It still comes from within. So no matter what, you have to have it from here, and you have to have the ears to hear it.
Yeah. And you're currently touring?
I'm always touring.
And you're still putting out albums?
Say it again?
Yeah, still putting out albums?
Oh yeah, I still release music. I have a record coming out real soon, in about, I think in November it's coming out.
So I'm wondering if when you look at this new generation of techno artists, of people who want to get into techno, what would you tell them? What have you learned about working in this space, about being a professional musician, about touring, traveling?
It's a great business. The toughest part is the travel. You know, you're away from your family, you're away from your home environment, and you have to, sometimes I've done 3 events in one evening, within a 12-hour period almost, and then you have to get on a plane and you have to go to the next city. So it looks glamorous, and a lot of it is glamorous, but there's work, and you have to be responsible, and you have to be focused, and you have to persevere, and there's going to be challenges just like with anything in life, and keep focused really, and keep chasing your dream, and doing it the best you can always.
Well, Kevin, I loved hearing your music. Everyone, please join me in thanking him.